You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
This podcast is presented by the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, telling Oklahoma stories through its people since 1927. Follow them online at oklahomahof.com and definitely on Instagram at oklahomahof. Let's get into today's episode. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn here, your host, back with another episode. We have a social media farming, ranching type podcast for you today, and I'm absolutely pumped because that's one of my worlds, not the farming world, the social media side. If people saw me farming, they'd laugh. But Gatlin Didier is on the podcast with me today. I'm going to say that the French way, Didier, and then Didier is the Oklahoma way, right?
That's right.
So people in Oklahoma who see your social media page probably call you Gatlin Didier. Which, there's Oklahoma ways to say things and French ways to say this and UK ways to say this. So the good thing is they know exactly who you are. But Gatlin, thanks so much for coming down. I'm kind of excited to dive into your journey and story and, just kind of talk about the whirlwind that you've, I guess, been on for the last 2 years.
Yeah, we're excited too, Mike. Thank you for having us. An honor to be on the podcast and to be here at the beautiful Oklahoma Hall of Fame. You're giving me that tour before, and this is just a great location for a podcast interview.
It is so good. And for people listening, you definitely need to come down. If you bring your kids, I know the kids are going back to school soon, but they do kids programs down here, which is amazing. So, yes, they've been wonderful for us and, continue to give us great support, and I really appreciate it. But talking recent, you're about to have a baby, right?
Yeah, that's something that no one in the social media world knows. But October,
that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's just good. It was just fine by me, and a lot of them don't even know I'm married, so that's a good thing too. It definitely conflicts with our the hussy stuff that we do and all that. But that's where people, if you understand that we have more of a show that we're presenting from a fictional world with our characters and our farm life, then you understand. Okay, that's not actually him. That's a character that he's acting, and then these people that we're following, it's more like we're here to entertain people. So yeah, it's funny when people find out wait, he's married. If you Google my name, the second most thing is Gatlin Didier, your wife, and my wife's why? What do people want to know? I said, people are nosy. This is how it is.
Yeah, that's so good. So do we know the sex of the baby yet?
Yeah, we found out it's going to be a girl. We have no name ideas yet. Okay. She's due in October, so we're just going to kind of wait and see, and whatever happens. And yeah, we didn't do any of those announcement videos. I'm not a big fan of those things. And
same.
Yeah, so we know it's going to be a baby girl in October. Hopefully not on OU Texas weekend, but if she's an OU Texas weekend baby comes out with the horns down, I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, a full baby's always good, right?
Yeah.
I'm a full baby, so I get it. But yeah, man, that's super exciting. And first one as well?
Yeah, first one for us, yeah.
Gosh, so that's, and I did, doing some digging through your Instagram. Seems like you and your wife have known each other for a very long time. Yeah,
we met 7 years ago, literally a couple weeks ago. It was our 7 years ago we met. Been married 4 years now. Mm-hmm. Met in California. I went out there for over 6 years. Just recently moved back to the state full time. Our journey, it's funny without her, you can go back in my life. That day I met her is probably where everything changed for me in more ways than one. And man, if I could say her, and we could do a whole podcast on just how much I think of her and how our lives together have enhanced me in general. But man, yeah, it's been 7 years now. You said that's really,
it goes by so fast because mine is 2015. Summer of 2015 is when I met my wife. So
wow, really?
Close to that, yeah. Which is, she never listens to the podcast, so I can get away with getting dates.
Well, my wife never likes any of my videos, so it's all good.
So, growing up then, you grew up in Oklahoma family?
Yeah. Family's been here for technically homesteaded at the farm that we film at, 120 years, farming, ranching, but they've been throughout the Oklahoma area since the late 1800s, and then officially at the homestead in Fay, Oklahoma, which is right near a town called Thomas, which for a lot of people don't know, that's near Weatherford, Oklahoma. And I just tell people who aren't from Oklahoma, it's basically in between Amarillo and Oklahoma City.
Yeah, that's so true. So growing up then, farming and ranching, obviously clearly, generational through the family. did you grow up out there, or did you grow up in the city?
Yeah, I grew up in Thomas, a town of 1,200 people. Went to graduate with 35 in my high school class. I tell people all the time, I was valedictorian in high school. They're like, wow, and I don't tell them how many people was in my class. But I grew up small town kid. Was working on the family farm ranch. I converted to a ranch full time in like 2008. I've been doing that my whole life. So that's all I really knew growing up was that way of life and playing sports. And being a small town kid, just being in everything involved, whether it's FFA to show choir to student council. You're just involved, you do everything. So I feel very fortunate that I got brought up that way, and now it's like full circle now in my life that coming back, we're kind of highlighting that all too now.
Yeah, that's so awesome, because I mean, back home, I think the schools are smaller generally than here as well. So I kind of had the similar feeling. And you're right, you're in everything, because, there's no tryouts. You're like, do you want to do this? Yes. Okay, you're in. Whether you like it or not, sometimes you're doing something.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is epic. But so growing up that way then, small town life, being on farm, playing sports, running around, were you thinking, yes, I'm going to take over, I'm going to drive a tractor the rest of my life? Or were you thinking, what, I want to go do something, I kind of have other passions, and I want to go to the big city or university?
Yeah, it's funny you ask that. Ever since I was a kid, I've always dreamed really big. It's so funny, and you think being from a small town, being out there in the middle of nowhere, that you dreaming big is a foregone conclusion. But I tell people all the time, I think because you are in the middle of nowhere, you have to be creative, you have to dream big, you have to do things to get yourself outside of the monotonous day-to-day of building fence, checking cows, just not being bored a lot. I feel like growing up the way I did really helped me to not give up, and then also allow me to go chase my dreams. I came from a family of, like you said, generational farming and ranchers, and my dad from day one was always like, what do you want to do? And for the longest time, I wanted to play professional baseball. The ones that I figured out, injuries and definitely not good enough to probably play professionally. Once I figured that out, the next passion I always had was movies. And he has a lot to do with that. And my grandpa, a lot of them, they have, we were watching the Westerns of John Wayne growing up, watching Hee Haw on TV, which is like the SNL version for country people back in the 1970s. Just all that. Now that I kind of step back, I've left the state before and got to, look outside the box. My perspective is like, man, I was either going to be playing baseball or going to be doing entertainment somehow. Yeah. And then now getting to do it with highlighting how my family's always operated and working is probably one of the coolest things that I never saw coming. So I don't know. That's I guess to answer your question. Yeah, I've always had support that always pushed me to go towards my dreams and not say like, no, you can't do that. You're from here. We do this. I was just very lucky to be blessed with a lot of support.
Yeah, that's really special to have that family backing and just like, fully like, what do you want? Like having your dad ask you that question, what do you want to do when you grow up, right? And most people are like, I want to go to, want to go to space, right? I want to be a fireman or whatever it is. But like just going further than that and say, no, like let's have this conversation, when you're old enough, and let's plan and see how we can get you, at least an opportunity to do that. So that's kind of special.
Yeah, very special. I again feel very blessed that's. A lot of people don't get that, especially in our way of life, but I got that. So
yeah. So coming then to university, is that when you do go, like you mentioned, to California?
Yeah. So I went. I went to junior college in El Reno. Yeah. Went for baseball. Was hurt. Ended up after getting my associates transferred to the University of Oklahoma. Changed my major like 3 or 4 times, figured out journalism, landed on broadcast journalism, but then also got into acting while I was at University of Oklahoma through like the local film and television group. And it was like this little studio called the Actor Factory, which was owned and operated by a local casting director here in the state named Chris Freihofer. I butchered that name.
I know that name.
So I started going there and I started learning acting in a professional sense in front of a camera. It's so different than like theater growing up and small town plays and all that. So I started learning the skill there while at school, learning behind the camera how it all operates. So I learned how to like be in front and tell the story from this side of it, then also be behind it, and like how does Spielberg get this lighting and why was he thinking this on when in Jurassic Park when the T-Rex is stomping in there and like you can feel the intensity of him coming closer to that little Jeep, and you're just like, I learned all that through the university and through like me going outside my realm of like, I've always wanted to be an actor. I want to go and study with these, all these other local Oklahomans who want to, and I was with a lot of moms and grandpas and people. It was a vast variety of people in those classes, and had a great teacher there named Darrell, who's a local Oklahoma actor, but he was in RoboCop, the original movie, and he's been in I think he has 170 credits of his career. So I was very fortunate to learn from good people there, and then that is when I was after college, I was like, okay, I want to go try this. I want to go try the real big boy way to do this. And everyone here is like, no, stay in Oklahoma, and then branch out. But I was like, no, I've always been so, when people tell me no, I'm like, okay, I'll show you. I'll do it. So that's kind of a little bit of my personality too.
Yeah. So you literally pack up, hit the road to California. Yeah.
So going into my senior year at University of Oklahoma, I went out to visit for a week in California, actually 2 weeks, with a good buddy of mine. His uncle worked at Disney, and he's like, come stay with us, see if you like it. Was out there, and that's when I met my wife, just on a whim. Met her, fell in love from the first week I was with her, and knew that very helped my journey. So fast forward to the end of my senior year of college, I had that support system out there now, because I had her love. Her family's great. They've been a huge support for me since day one, since I met them. College athletes as well. So I got out there, and it wasn't like I was a struggling, eating food off the ground actor. I stayed with them for a few months and got my own place out there, but they didn't allow me to I had some buddies who went out there at the same time as me, and they came back to Oklahoma real quick. Yeah. But I stuck it out, but luckily, again, had huge support when I went out there.
Yeah. That's, so fortunate to have that, right?
So lucky.
It's all about timing. Life's about timing, and I'm a big believer in that, and fate and all that stuff that people think is nonsense. But I can look back through my own life and know that it's been there many times, good and bad.
Exactly.
But that's so cool to be out there and have that support system, and to meet someone early as that, right? And and just to know, people listening, we all knew when we met the person that we fell in love with.
They tell you that
right?
your whole life, but you're you don't really know that until it happens, and you're like, that's what it's
all about. Yeah. So during this time, then you got this support system. You're just kind of doing auditions, and did you have I am this type of actor, or you just throw me in anything?
Well, luckily I got out there, and I got representation by one of the best management companies out there. Got an interview with them. They tested me out, and then they started having me audition for big time stuff quick. It's when things want no name actors or fresh faces, they send guys like me out there, all American, corn fed, beef fed, as we say where I'm from, all American Midwest guy coming out there, and that's a very prototypical or a typecasted role. So I would get that at auditions a lot, and at the same time I was doing the cliche actor stuff, bartending, waiting tables, doing any jobs I could just to make money on the side. That helped allow you to make auditions and then go to acting classes. So I would drive down the town I lived out there. It's called Simi Valley. It was 30 miles northwest of Los Angeles. So I would drive down to Hollywood 3 times a week for acting classes, and then sometimes throughout that week during the day for auditions and yada yada yada. So there I'd make some trips during the week, 6 or 7 times down there back and forth, which in Oklahoma we're used to driving everywhere, so I wasn't fazed by that. But the carpool lane is real out there, and I wish I could have took advantage of it, but I didn't have anybody with me. But so doing all that is just that was a grind, but luckily growing up how I did taught me it's a task. Just each day just to get approach it and go. When you're scraping food into a dumpster after someone eats a steak and you're crying, I was taught never to leave a steak on a plate. You get all these things happening, but I was for me it was always for something more. Yeah. And I didn't know what exactly that more was going to be. I thought it was going to be for a movie role, but and then it ended up being something else a few years later,
turning into millions and millions on social media.
Yeah.
It's mad. Again, timing, life, looking back, you're oh yeah, it makes sense. But in the moment, you're no, I'm not going to be making TikToks with my nan. Yeah, no. And my cousin. There's no way.
No one even knew what TikTok was. I didn't.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly.
And I hated social media. A small town guy. I'm social media? What the heck? I have 500 followers. I'm yeah, this is everybody I know. This is and their dog that's following me. Why do I need? And then people would tell us out there you need more followers, or you need more of a social media presence, just to even get considered further down the line for stuff. So I always thought that was a big thing I needed to tackle. I never knew how to tackle it. Yeah.
So then I guess, this is going on. Obviously you do come back, but, during those 6 years you're out there, Do you get any breakthroughs? What happens?
Yeah, I got close on a few opportunities. They call it going to producers. That's when you're in the final stretch. I got close on a few opportunities. Auditioned for some really big stuff. The Elvis movie that just came out, that was like my last big audition. I remember I auditioned for Elvis. I know I got great feedback on it, but I ended up casting a kid who's been out there for 20 years. Right. And then it was like between him and Harry Styles and Miles Teller. It's like, these are like, they've been in a lot of movies, and I was still Gatlin Didier that no one knew yet. Like, they all call me Didier out there too, which is funny. But then, at the end of the day, like, what happened, like, I was like, nope, I'm getting close, I'm getting better. And then COVID hit. And that's when, like, everything changed from me, my perspective. I had to learn how to pivot.
Yeah. So that's when you're like, should we go back to Oklahoma? And did your wife grow up in California?
Yeah, she's a Southern California girl.
Okay, so here coming to Oklahoma was like, last thing I wanted to do.
This was a vacation for her time we came here, like getting away, getting to the simple life, taking a break. So coming here, it was never really, in my mind, once I left, I was like, I ain't going back until I've accomplished what I've set out here to do. Yeah. And it happened very organically, how coming back here worked right when COVID hit. Literally January of 2020, right before COVID hit, I had decided, I'm doubling down on this acting thing. And then on top of that, I'm going to grow my social media presence, because one of the last auditions I had where I thought I nailed it, I walk in out of the audition room, I see all these other actors looking at me like, because I had the producers, I had the star. There's a social media girl named Lele Pons, huge YouTuber, TikToker now, but like had this huge presence there, putting on a show for her on Facebook, and I thought I nailed it. And we were in there, I was like dancing with her in this thing, and she gets up and they're like, wow, this is awesome. I'm like, man, I've never left an audition where like I had everybody in the palm of my hand. So I'm leaving, I see these actors, I'm like, it's over. I finally have broke through, booked this show. Didn't get it because I didn't have enough social media followers. They wanted somebody with a presence, and I'm like, gosh dang, how do I do this? So in like January, I can remember this to the day, December 14th, 2019, I was like, I'm going to start my own YouTube channel. I'm going to start putting this stuff on social media. I'm going to start telling stories, telling funny videos, clips. I started seeing like the Trey Kennedys of the world, comedian type people, but also people who tell like auditioning, showcasing how good they are at acting on stuff. So I'm like, I'm going to show what I can do behind the camera and in front of the camera all at the same time. And that's how I'll grow and show all these Hollywood people how I can operate. And then COVID hits. Everything shuts down in California. Lockdown. And so the week is so funny that, and again, this goes back to what you were saying about timing. The week that everything locked down out there, we were supposed to come back to Oklahoma for one of my best friends' growing up wedding. Their wedding gets canceled. I also had plans to make a few farm videos while I came out here, because I was like, I'm making these videos. And my cousin, who later on becomes Gate Bart, is a UPS driver during the week, still is. I'm trying to work on him getting done with that here full time. He's like, I'm off that week. Why don't we make some videos? I'm like, all right, heck yeah. I got a camera guy. I got somebody maybe be in my scenes with me. So everything gets canceled. Plans get kaput. In my head, I couldn't sleep that night, because I'm like, man, there goes all my plans I wanted to make. I really felt like I had something planned. I actually scripted out. I used to script out everything. I had 6 videos I was going to shoot, scripted all the way top to bottom. And everyone's like, my wife's like, we can't go anywhere. Everyone's freaking out. And in my head, I go, I still got to go. I still got to go back home. She's like, why do you got to run home? I said, I don't know why, but I feel like if I go there, I can make something good. And I've been putting stuff on YouTube for 3 months, and it was like 600 views. And in my head, like, if we got over 100, like, that was good. So I got loaded in my pickup, packed it up for a week with all the costume, my camera equipment, everything, and I headed east back to Oklahoma. And also at the same time, I was like, it'd be nice to kind of get back, like, where everything's not near shut down, and then, like, get back to my roots a little bit, too.
Wide open spaces in Oklahoma.
Wide open spaces. And then my dad and them always, like, if you're home, I could use some help. So, like, I always get that question when I'm home. So I was like, okay, well, maybe it'll be good to get a little help, too. So I get back. We start making videos, and we made some really funny ones, really good ones I was very proud of. Did that for a whole week. I go back to California after a week of knocking them out. And then as I come back, my sister a few weeks before said, "You ever heard of TikTok?" I'm like, "I've been hearing about this TikTok thing, but I'm not too sure about it." She's like, "You should put your stuff." I see these YouTubers who are saying they're blowing up because their videos are doing well on TikTok. Yeah. And then I come back, and my wife's brother, who was a college baseball guy who's home now because COVID, he's like, "You should put your stuff on TikTok." I'm like, okay, this is the second person who's told me about this dang app that I need to get. So I download the app. I couldn't figure it out, but I was like, I'm smart enough. I know how to like edit and put things together. So I take a video we shot in my barn. We recreated the scene from, Risky Business with Tom Cruise, where he slides in his underwear, and it's to a Luke Combs song though called "One Too Many." I throw that up on TikTok. On YouTube, I think it did 300 views in like a week. One day on TikTok, it did 31,000 views, and I had no followers, and I'm like, wow, what is this?
Jackpot.
What is this app? Yeah. So I just took off from there, and that's when, once I had a glimmer of hope, I'm like, this is my end. Yeah. And that's long story answer to what you asked there. That's how we got to like where I started really taking advantage of social media.
Yeah. Because then you realize, okay, like this is it. This is what works now. Yeah. But also this is what works for me, because like I just have to repurpose my videos to edit in a long form way. Yeah. Right. You know, it's like, it's great, you know, because you can shoot it wide and cut it. Like that's the good thing. Yeah. But yeah, then like it's probably you just get that like taste of to say terrible analogy, but like the shark gets a taste of blood in their mouth and they're going after it, right? Yeah. Or you get that first kind of like, this is it, this is my hit. Like now I can just double down on this, especially because you've been consistently uploading on YouTube and it hasn't been working. You already have the work ethic for it. Yeah. It's just channeling it at a different platform. Yeah. Which is like timing. It was great.
Back to timing. And I remember doing those YouTube academies. I would get up. So I started working construction during COVID out in California. I'd get up at 3 a.m., start editing my videos, leave by 6 something, get back home at night, get it posted. This is before I even knew you could do the studio to schedule stuff. But like, I just remember I just was training myself through work ethic those months leading up, and then just sticking to it. And it turned into like consistency. And to me, that's what I've learned in anything in life. Like consistency is key, which you've probably learned with this podcast. Mm-hmm. Like the more you do it, the more you get better at it. The more people start knowing about it, the more it grows. And one day, just voila, like, oh, people know about this. Yeah. And that's where it happened for us. With all this. And again, going back to what you're saying, my biggest struggle at that point was, okay, I found the type of content I know how to make too and people want, and I still live in California. So that was a balance for a long time, was the balancing back and forth of living there and coming back here, because my wife had a really steady job. She worked in the studios. And then, you know, like I couldn't ask her to like, oh, you know, she was working from home at that point. But, I couldn't ask her to leave. And I was working construction and all this stuff, just trying to make ends meet. And then I think I don't even remember where I'm at right now. But
well, I mean, I don't want to brush past the fact that you work extremely hard to be where you're at, and you're successful because of that work ethic, right? Yeah. I don't want people to come to your page and be like, oh, he's made 10 videos and they're all hilarious, but that can't be that hard. No, it's extremely hard to do, right? I mean, you don't find it hard, but like, you know, the amount of hours that you've put in, like I just don't want to like brush past that point, because a lot of people listening and watching and seeing successful people, especially on social media, are just like, oh, they just like post videos. Yeah. Well, I mean, you're making small movies basically, right? There's a lot of stuff that goes into it, you know, and the quality of the videos that you make.
Especially the style we do, exactly. You know, that's what people don't realize. Like we're not like people pulling our phones out. Like I'm literally scripting and feeding dialogue to my 81-year-old grandma, and you know, we're making up stuff on the fly. We've like learned how we've gotten better at doing stuff, but it was all through practice and trial and error. And that's 2020, and now we're sitting here in 2022. This is 2 full years later, and I mean 2 years ago at this point, I was still setting like we'd grown our following. We got like 70,000 by this point 2 years ago on TikTok. And I still was at like 700 Instagram followers. Yeah. Like I wasn't learning how to convert things yet and do all this stuff. Like you have to learn these platforms, these apps, their algorithms, on top of like, how can I tell a good story to make people want to be entertained and watched? And like, how do I tell a story that I want to tell? There's so many little things to it that people, they're just picking up their phone and they're like, oh yeah, I get my little dopamine hit for the day. And they don't realize how much time and effort and, work went into just the simplest little thing. Sometimes the simplest little ones though too also are the ones that you're just like, wow, that's how this thing works.
Right, like you grinded for an entire day making a 30-second video and it flops, and you're just like, oh, and then you spent 5 minutes making one and it's like millions of views. You're like, oh, okay, never mind. Thank you, algorithm.
Exactly.
Oh, it's so good. So obviously then you do move back full time.
Yeah, and again, like I said earlier, like we didn't move full time until April of this year.
Oh, wow.
So I was doing the back and forth the last 2 years, every 2 weeks.
No way.
Yeah, so this is something a lot of people don't know, and like I'm not afraid to tell this, because a lot of people go, well, you're not a real farmer, you're not a real rancher. I'm like, actually, like, I'm not the one who really does it.
Yeah.
My family still does it. It's still a fully functional operating ranch right now, but I still help out when I can.
Yeah.
We're just getting really busy with our stuff now, so like I'm barely around to get to do it, but again, at the end of the day, my passion for it is like I want to help this industry too, because there's so much negativity with a lot of stuff going on. It's part of Oklahoma's economy, and now I get to come back and do this while also going after pursuing my dreams, telling stories, but being my own boss about it is like the biggest blessing I ever could have had with all this. Is like, now I'm not waiting for somebody to give me an opportunity. I've created an opportunity for myself every day. Yeah. Getting to do it with friends and family, mainly family right now. So that's kind of where we're at with it all, but it's like I get to do it here in Oklahoma now, but until my wife had to get a different job where she's fully remote job now. So that's what was our biggest thing for the longest time, was I wasn't ever going to uproot her until, like, because stability is a big thing for both, like, even for myself. Like, I love to jump. I'm a dreamer, but like, I like to like know, like, okay, we're good. And until I think it was like November of 2021 or December actually. And that's happened because like my in-laws all got COVID. We got exposed to them. So I had to tell my construction job, like, no way, like I can't come for 2 weeks. So I got to stay at home and edit all the videos. So going back to what I was trying to say a while ago is like I came back to Oklahoma in November and stayed for a whole month in 2021 or 2020 actually. Yeah. And that's when I really hit the needle on the head with content, what we were doing, because I did farm stuff with Darrell, and that's where like I really honed in. I'm like, okay, I took our niche, but I really niched down even more. I went farmer specific, and then I went until I made a character that people like related to and loved, and I started doing things that was relatable in the content. And so I shot all that before I went back to California to work my construction job. I don't know how I got a month off to do that, but I did. And then when that happened with the COVID, that was again timing. I was home for 2 weeks, and that's when we blew up. Like farm stuff with Darrell, I was at 100,000 followers, went from 100,000 followers to 400,000 followers with like 3 video span of like viral videos on TikTok. And then I saw the Instagram go from 700 followers to now we have 7,000 followers. Now we have 20,000 followers. And I'm like, wow.
It's amazing how fast it can happen.
It can happen like that overnight. And I've seen it happen to lots of people. I've known a lot of people in this space now, and it's very hard to handle if you don't know how to do it. I just luckily had such a foundation and had so many people, kind of keeping me grounded throughout it all. But also it's like when you're a later 20s guy who're finally figuring it out, and you're not some 18-year-old or 21-year-old kid who's not went through some life experiences and not had to take out the garbage of a lot of people at a restaurant or work construction in California. When you grew up building fences, you're like, I'd rather be building fence any day of the week than working construction in someone's home in California. So,
I mean, I love that, like, you still never gave up on the dream. You're still working out there, right? Even though like you kind of found, okay, I need to come back every 2 weeks to figure this out, to film videos, because I love doing it. And I think this could be my gateway to getting into more acting, right? Because you're building your social media following, you're practicing your acting, you're building stories, scripts, like it all makes sense. When was there a point where you're like, okay, like I'm just going to do this? Or are we still at the point now where like, I still want to act. I still want to do that stuff. And obviously like, you're not in California anymore. So thankfully you're not working construction, right? So take me through that bit of like, do we still have the dream to act? Thankfully Oklahoma's great, got a great movie scene now. And also, like, when did it come a point where you're like, I'm never working construction again because I have some money coming in from Instagram?
I think I finally just doubled down on myself. I do remember it was like during that whole week where we went viral, and I talked to a few people in the space, like, you got this many followers, you're rolling this stuff, you should like launch merchandise, product, and all these things. I was like, really? There's like multiple revenue streams you can have when you do this. It's not just like ad spend on YouTube.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, you could have your own. And I learned about a lot of this when I launched my YouTube channel too. Like I knew like this is an avenue where we could truly, cause I had a vision. I remember writing down, I probably have it in my notes somewhere on my phone, like 2020, like if this thing goes where I want it to, like where do I see the entertainment industry going in 2020? This is before COVID. It was like, YouTube is a production company, distribution platform. I become a big time creator on there. Then recruit other creators to like also use this platform and basically like be a mini production company. And so that's where I kind of knew that was the vision in early 2020, but in December 2020 when we went viral, I was like, okay, this is my opportunity. I know we get opportunities in life. I feel like that, you know, you just got to jump on. And that was mine. And again, a gut feeling like I did when I drove out here in early 2020, I was like, I've got to put everything I have into this. I told my wife, give me 2 months. I did all the work. We got a fan, like, give me 2 months. Let's get this merchandise launched and let's see what happens. So I think it was December. Yeah, it was right after Christmas of December. She was like, you need to go back and film for a whole another 2 weeks.
She told you to go.
Yeah, and I was like, okay. I'm like, yeah, we need to. She said, but you need to have fresh stuff because social media, always is changing. I'm like, yeah, I need to. So went back home. We knew these shirts were getting launched. I started implementing them into our content with just want to shoot some addy type things. Like, hey, we got shirts. But I never could be a guy like, go to my link in bio and buy this. I'm like, we got to make this work within our content. So I did a moonwalk thing where I come into a Fergie song and I was like, oh snap, with my Darrell voice and it was great marketing. I don't know how I even thought of it.
Years of training.
Oh yeah, years of training, I guess, and all these different things. So I came back in January. This is where the process of every 2 weeks started because, I knew I had to do it. My wife also was very supportive of doing it. And then we launched our merchandise in February 9th, 2021. Remember, first week we did 10 grand in sales like that. And I'm like, I worked construction for 6 months and I did not make this hardly at all. And we dropped shirts and and that's when I was like, okay, there's something very powerful about this. Yeah. And this all because we made a video about, I can cuss on here or no?
I mean, I can cut it out.
You can cut it. I'll just say the gate B. It's okay. So it's
everyone who knows the gate B in farming and ranching.
Yeah, everyone. Yeah, if you're the person in the passenger seat, you got to get out and get the gate. That was one of our viral videos. So we put that on a T-shirt. Yeah. And so many farming and ranching people throughout the country go, oh my gosh, because they kept saying we want that T-shirt. So I said, all right, let's make a T-shirt that says that on there, and it did 10 grand in sales with that T-shirt, a few hats, and I feel like a few shirts, few hoodies, few hats. Simple, nothing crazy.
And you drop shipping all of this as well?
We first week we tried, and there was a lot of things, so I went and canceled all that, and then we just started ordering inventory, and to this day we still.
Okay, so you went and ordered, put money down, bulk ordered, say, hey, I got to order, a couple hundred shirts or whatever and see if this works. Yeah, after
that first initial run, after when drop shipping wasn't really working and we saw the numbers, then we over ordered every people who does. So we went through that, learning that whole process too. But that's when I was like, okay, here's a revenue stream we could utilize to make this a functioning, this is there's one way we can make money at this. Yeah. While also doing I'm doing what I love. YouTube stuff is still you're still getting a few dollars here and there. So that was where it really started taking off for us. When I started doubling down on the content. So December 2020, I said I'm doing it. January 2021, February, we really honed in on it, and that's where bringing in my cousin more often, having him in the content. So we started filming on the weekends when he'd be off work every Saturday, Sunday, film 2 days when I was there. So it's okay, I got him for 4 days total. So we made a bunch of content that would work on my page. And then we launched his page. And then we brought in my grandma on a whim one day, just total. She lives there on the farm. Mm-hmm. So that turned into a whole nother thing that now has been a huge blessing for us. And it's so great I get to do it. But the day that happened, it changed the game for us.
Yeah, it's everyone loves Betty White, right? Everyone loves cute old grandmas, especially when they have a southern accent and they're giving their grandson crap. It just fits, right? Because everybody relates to that. Everyone in their head's I know my grandmother, whether she's around or she's not around. You know, I have those memories of her just like being the best ever. You know, grandmother always spoils the grandkids, but also like my grandmother, my dad used to joke that my grandmother could throw her slipper around corners, like because she, you know, just like all this stuff, and you like have all these stories, and now you're creating these amazing memories, which is it's so cool.
It's so cool.
Take me to that first day then, where you know grandma just comes out saying, "What are you guys doing?" And says, "Actually, come on in." Like, how does that all happen? How does she get in the first video? And then, you know, fast forward then after you get through that to how does she feel about everything now?
Just thinking about it, like how it all happened is truly like kind of like how our content still happens to this day. Like it's very funny, but like up until that point, we started getting popular with these called Farm Stuff with Darrell episodes, which was like I was trying to be educational, funny, and entertaining all at the same time, and like quick 30-second videos about farming, ranching stuff around the farm. And I think we had just done one about the trailer hitch, where like the trailer hitch is known to be the bee like of the farm, like it's shin killer. Like you walk by and you hit that thing every time. And so we just made that video, and someone had said something about like I can't remember what it was. They said something about a grandma. Like, yeah, but imagine like if my that took out my granny one day. And then somebody also said, so I made a reference into the very next Farm Stuff video. We did the one finger wave. I don't know if you in Oklahoma you're familiar with like when people pass you, they do that. So that's huge in the farming community. So we did a video about what all the different signs mean. And then a car passes us in the video. I go, I wonder if that was Granny. And like to Gate Bart. and then people would go like, who's Granny? So then in a video, I just remember she was out in the yard, and we've started to not only do the Farm Stuff videos, but like play off our characters within a social media world and farming. So I'm sitting there and like you can stitch videos on TikTok, and there's always girls, you know, dancing in bikinis and all this stuff. And I'm like, how do we make fun of this without being like vulgar or what? And so I was like, what if I stitch it and go like, and like ask my grandma, my granny, like, what does she think of this lovely young lady for me? Because at this point, like we'd never classified who, like Darrell's a farm boy who lives on the farm with his grandma. So I'm like, well, obviously he's not married or we haven't got this figured out yet. So we just kind of ran with this, and I'd show her, I'm like, Granny, look at this lady. And like, she comes up to the phone and she just like her real reaction was like, these hussies on this thing, like, this is what they're doing. I said, we got to stop. We got to redo that, Grandma. What'd you call them? And she's like, they're hussies. I go, yes, I know. And she's always called like girls who are very flaunty out there that, and I'm like, we got to say this on thing. She goes, I'm not going to say that on a camera. People will cancel me. And I said, no, it's funny because you're older. You can get away with it. I said, you and babies, it's different between elderly people and babies. You guys can get away with a lot more than regular people can. So I hit the stitch button, and she slaps me. She goes, Darrell, that's a hussy. You leave them alone. And I go, yes, Granny. And like that's where it just totally took off, and people go, who's Granny? And like, what? We want more of this lady. So I just started like throwing every once in a while, have her in bits, like kind of scolding us, getting on to us. And that's where my brain, from like a storytelling standpoint, was like, this is a great element of like a mother-son relationship, a grandmother, her grandson relationship. Because we kind of had the buddy comedy thing going between me and Gate Bart. But I was like, this is where you can get really family and more personal with stuff. So, and I get to do it with my grandma, who like, I've known her my whole life, so I know how to direct her, but she also is very good at listening to my directions. So like, and when I was young, she did not listen to anything I said. She wouldn't even let me have sugar in my sweet tea or my tea. So like this, and Granny growing up she was my more stern grandma. So not the fun grandma as much. But now she's like this like full of life, 80-year-old lady, always up down for whatever. So I told her to do something. She's like, sure, I'll do it. So we started just having her in the content, and then took off. And then I think in like April or May or something, we launched, like, we made her own TikTok page just for fun. And like within a month, she had 100,000 followers. So we're like, well, that took me 8-9 months of grinding, and she posted like 2 videos and had 100,000 followers. Yeah, on TikTok.
And the great part about it is that she's literally just being herself.
Yeah,
right. She doesn't have to act. Like you've gone through school to act and all this stuff to do this little storyline. You're just like, Granny, do this. And she's like, okay. Yeah. Like, you don't have to like. It's the best thing about it, and then again, so many people are relating to her because their grandma's like that or their mum's like that. Right. It's just so good. But yeah, I looked up her Instagram before we started recording. She's at 100,000 followers on Instagram.
Yeah, she just hit that a couple weeks ago, and we just launched that actually in April of this year.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
like some people don't go there. Like some people are like, how have you done that? Well, because all they want to do is get to 10K or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just like, it's amazing how, and obviously Gatebards is growing now. I think it's close to 10,000 soon,
yeah,
right?
We actually, it's so funny, like his old one, something happened with it, and like he was not, like we'd post a video, it'd go viral on TikTok or even on my page, but his old Instagram account wouldn't, so we would I'm like, we should just start you a new one. So we faked it, like, fake it. This is all part of like
the story.
The story.
Yeah.
So he's like, I can't log into my Instagram, and like we made a whole video about it. Like, and so we're like, we just got to make you a new one. And Granny, like in a second, goes, "Here, I already made you a new one." And he's like, "You're really good at this social media stuff, Grandma." So we did that, and like in 2 months now, and being consistent with his content, it's like 12,000 followers in 2 months, which to me is like still that's a great accomplishment.
That's amazing.
For we can like he's a secondary sidekick, and like he's only films with us still 3 or 4 days a month. So that we get to do that it's pretty cool and grow them. But just how it all has happened. Like thinking back now, it's like, wow, it's just like all on a whim. Cousin doing that, and grandma doing that, and now we're all
nuts. Isn't it? Like it's so cool though. It's so like, I don't know. It's just and I love the fact that because people are going to listen to this, right? Or people are just going to watch your stuff, or people that come to you. What is that?
I think.
Oh, some kid is outside playing with the. That's so funny.
If that was Granny here, she'd be like, "Hey, Darrell, Gatebird, quit messing around over there."
But the good thing is though, is like. You have like it's a storyline. It's all in your head. You have 3 characters, right? And more characters may be coming in. Who knows? Like where could this go? It's there's so much left, right? This could go anywhere. You could take Granny to the city or whatever. Like there's so many ways to do this, and that's why you're never gonna run out of content. You know, because like you can always add in more characters and do cool. Like it's. And as much as like, you might get out of, there's probably times you got writer's block, right? You may be at the farm and you're like, okay, we're at the farm, what do we do? But then someone comes in and is like, oh, well, what about this, right? Like I would go out there and I know nothing about farming and like, tell me about this. And like, well, yeah, it's like, it's right in front of me. So that's kind of like, I love that. But
well, how a lot of our stuff works and anymore too. I used to go out strategically and like, we'd like, oh, we're going to do X, Y, Z. And now a lot of the time it's like, we get together and like, what do you want to make today? Like, I was thinking about this. What do you think? We kind of like spitball, me and Jarrett, and then we walk in, and this is like our favorite part of our day. It was probably one of my favorite parts of like any time is like, it's a film day, and we're going over to Grandma's to get her to like tell her what we're planning for the day. We walk in. We started doing this recently, where we put his Gatebard's Jarrett's phone. We hit record, put it in his pocket. We walk in, and like literally anytime you go to see her, like she says the darndest thing every time, and it's always something different. Like the other day, I walk in, and she's like, "Can you look at? I got to show you this." I was like, "What?" And she like pulls out a can of Crisco, and I'm like, "What that?" She goes, "Guess how old this is?" And I go, "I'm gonna say late '90s, maybe early 2000s." She goes, "Well, no." And so 2012, but because her deep freezer went out, and so she's cleaning it out and everything. And then she's like, "This is my grandma." I'm like, "This is like gold too, like because it's Crisco old, and like who freezes Crisco? Old farm ladies do that. So like she freezes everything. So like that's a bit like, so that happens a lot with our stuff. It's like an inspiration happens through like something she does,
just natural. Or
like we'll be out there trying to pull buckets apart to like sit down for the scene. We're like, oh, a bucket. Everyone struggles with pulling the buckets apart. Like that's a whole video. So. That happens a lot, and very fortunate that because I was a planner, and I had to get outside my like this, you study your lines, the schooled version of me, the educated version of an actor, creator, storyteller, and like embrace kind of the unknown. And I love that we can do that because that's when we have some of our most like epic viral things happen like that.
I love it. It's so awesome, and obviously as you grow, people, brands start noticing, right? And you're like, you get an email or a phone call one day or a text, or you're just like, oh, now we're Dots Pretzels, right? Or we're Casey's, or I mean, the other Oklahoma beef we've worked with, or like. What was the first one that you're like, is this real? Someone wants me to do.
Oh, like a brand deal?
Yeah, like brand deals.
Oh, man. Oh, gosh, the first one.
And was it like within the last year? Was it 2 years ago? Like when was that?
Oh, yeah. I remember like starting to get hit up by brands when I had like 50,000 followers on TikTok, but they're just like wanting to give you free stuff.
Yeah, wear my t-shirt in your video.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I learned at that point in my life, and just like, I'm like, you don't do anything for free. Oh. And my wife's like, you're so valuable. Like, you know, she was very, I'm like, you're right, but I think you think I'm more valuable than like the rest of the world thinks. But, I was getting these opportunities to like get people to send shirts. So I would put it on. I'm like, why am I wearing their stuff? Yeah. And that's where my brain went back to like, why would I never wear my own stuff? So that's, we had our own merch stuff. Like, we still do. Like, we represent, I wear our stuff. Like, a lot of granny shirts are our own merchandise, like her Merle's Over Hushy shirt, her Country Living shirts, any of that stuff. Like, that's our own stuff. But then here in the past, I believe officially in April, we partnered with a company called Dry Duck, and they do workwear. And it was important to me to work with a branded company like that, because that highlights what we're from. But the first one, you mentioned Dots Pretzels. We had Dots Pretzels in our video. I was doing them before Darrell even came around, because I'm like, it was something we always had in the farm in the last like 6 years. Before I moved to California, they started popping up in our farm trucks and our tractors and stuff on the farm, and like no one out there ever heard of them. So I'd always like tell people about Dots Pretzels out there, and then we started putting in our videos like it's a snack that you always have. And then when the Gate Bee video popped off, he was snacking on Dots Pretzels, and that's like when people like, I started seeing the correlation of Dots Pretzels like back and forth. Like people like, do you guys own the company? Like people started saying that kind of stuff. And then I believe it was August of 2021, so last year, about a year at this point, we started talking to them officially. They'd send us like free stuff before, for like meet and greets and things like that, but we never had ever been like a true sponsor of our stuff. And then so in August of 2021, we officially partnered with Dots Pretzels. To this day, still a partnership with them. We love it because it's just, we truly love the product. Right. We can feature in anything. It doesn't have to feel too.
They're not telling you this is how I want you to feature it. Like, you're just to keep doing what you're doing.
And that's what I like, because like you hired me to like promote your stuff, like, and through us, the only way I'll partner with somebody is if we can do it through us organically. So they weren't the first one, but they were the ones like, it was like we kind of betted up. I gambled on that one, and it paid off a year later. But you get all these little ones, and then over time it builds up these bigger ones. Like currently, like they mentioned Dry Duck, great company based out of Kansas City, been around since 2007. But they're big deals. Like they want to give workwear that's ready to work in, durable, and it's a very I love what they stand for. Values are a huge part to us. So them, and then we have Granny does a lot of stuff for Amazon with her Alexa. She loves Alexa, so and they love her too. So that's fun getting to do that. And then Casey's has been probably one of my most favorite ones to do, because again, general store throughout the Midwest I've seen growing up my whole life, but now they're starting to make their way down here to Oklahoma a lot, and love what they're about. The company, their pizzas, I've always like liked it, but now it's like it's gotten really good. The breakfast pizza was always really good, so that was been fun. And then we just get these other ones that every you get the one-offs who people like, and followers get mad. They're like, oh, you guys are getting too commercially. But here's the deal, it's like anybody, it's like actors have to go take you to commercials all the time. It's like every once in a while we got to take one of these because sometimes it's too good to not take.
I'm not going back to construction,
and I ain't gonna work in construction anymore. And there you can't we can't keep bringing this value to you guys, to all free entertainment on these free platforms, because nothing's free in life anyway. And we're giving up all of our data. There's a whole other thing. Like there's a reason these platforms are free, but like
time is not.
For me, I was like, if we can be an ad and it can be creative and funny, and that's what I try to be with all of it, is like, how do we make it part of our story? It's like when Granny goes to town to go to Casey's and use her Casey rewards, and she goes, I tell Darrell about it. And so like that's where we've been able to have fun with it. And it challenges me a lot as a creator to like, we have to kind of step outside our realm because it's not something I control. It's another brand. So
to that point, exactly right. To what you said, is it pushes me as a creator. It still keeps my brain going. It's still, keeping you within acting, and people over TikTok or over social media or Instagram or whatever are seeing like, or even, you can go back to Vine, right? All of these people who are successful in that area have gone into something else, right? Like, who was the redheaded guy who did like the Subaru video? He's a comedian.
Oh yeah,
like he's him too. But there was another kid. He looked like a kid basically. I can't remember what his name is, but he's hilarious.
Is he from Vine back in the day?
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, but he has turned that into like he's on stage doing comedy shows, right? Because he wanted to be a comedian. It's the same with you. Like you want to be an actor, so you're acting in your own videos, you're creating, you're producing, you're doing all your own stuff. one day I'm sure you want to be in Thor or something, right? You want to be in a movie, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the end goal, and that goes back to the dream of you being, a kid, and your dad says, "What do you want to do?"
Yeah.
Like you're still on that journey, which is it's really cool to have that, but also to be on that journey and have so much fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like there's people listening that are like, how do I do both? Right? How do I like climb the ladder to the job that I want to get to, or the acting spot that I want to get to, but also have an absolute blast on the way up?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Now I think it's a lot of it's perspective too, and I feel very fortunate. I think too is like I left, came back now, and feel very fortunate that I get to be back. And I had to leave my family and leave everything I know, leave Oklahoma, and like I'm very proud to be from the state. Love the state. Love what Oklahomans are about. I feel like Oklahomans are a different breed, because it's like if people always say Texans are saying like we have our own thing with Texas, but it's like we're also kind of always been like, when it comes like we're not a southern state, we're not a midwestern state, we really don't. We're kind of like floating here in the middle, and I'm very proud of like everything about being that, and I think that embodies a lot of me and our content, what we do, and what I think is that you got to enjoy the journey the whole way. And looking back on it, like to this day, I still feel like the guy who started YouTube videos. It's like when I was driving over here for the podcast, I'm like, we've done a few podcasts, but I was like, I haven't, I don't know. I'm like, I don't think we're big enough for podcasts. That's how I just see it. It's I like still listen to Joe Rogan and all these people. I hear Mr. Beast on there, but it's but then I also know we've earned our spot at the table, everything we do too. And I believe and know that. But I've not had fun along the way through it all. Because I think it's just innate. It's in my DNA. I'm passionate about what I'm doing, and I'm passionate about who I'm doing it with. I think there's just so much love for what is behind it all, and my dream and knowing my vision is still there. Like everything I ever was going for when I left 6 years ago, it's not like it left. It's still there, and it feels now more attainable than it ever did in the 6 years while I was gone, when I was supposed to be where it was supposed to make it happen. And going back to you said, I want to be in movies. My goal is now it's I think we can make our own movies. I'm not going to need a studio to give me money. I'm pretty sure these brands give me a lot of money. I imagine what a studio might do, or a Hulu or a Net might do if we continue what we're doing. And I'm fine with that. Yeah. And that's where my vision's I've really just taken my journey by I guess not to be cliche, but life by the horns. And now we're really doing what we wanted to do in life. But that's just how I feel now about where we're at. But I've had some there is days where you're it's a freaking grind. I drive an hour and a half to film a lot, because I live outside the Oklahoma City area, and so I'm driving an hour and a half to our farm 3 or 4 days a week just to make content, do business, things like that. So it's still a grind, and editing and all this stuff. There's no one filming our stuff. It's me. I'm editing it, I'm producing it. Gate Bart and Granny talent, and we tell stories, and we get to we haven't expanded the operation yet, but this is just the beginning of the journey for me. But I've had so much fun along the way, and I know how much fun I'm gonna have. But it's hard not to have fun when you're with a goofball like my cousin, and when you're with an 81-year-old Spitfire like Granny. It's if you can't have fun with that, you're like a person who's got some issues.
Right? Yeah, definitely. It's totally worth driving out there for all that stuff. Yeah. One of the other interesting things I love what you guys do is every Sunday you do something, right?
Yeah.
Do a Bible verse of the week, right?
We try to do it every week, and what happens like last week, Gate Bart had a baby, so it's we try to do it it's the last thing we do on Sunday after being out filming. What are we blessed for? What are we thankful for? And we find a verse that we go talk about it, do a little quick study, and then I try, because everything's short form. You got to keep it under 60 seconds on these apps for it to even work. And it was actually Jared's idea, because he started doing it back in, I think, last year. And they weren't getting many views. I'm I love his message and what he's trying to do with it. I'm why don't we make it more high quality on my stuff? I'll share it with you, because we both stand the three things we represent. I tell people, it's literally on our clothes. It's know your why. God, family, country is our why. So we're not afraid to talk about our faith. Because if I didn't have my faith, I never would have left and never would have came back, and never would have fought through all this stuff if I didn't know I truly was doing what God intended me to do. And so that's what we do. We do Sunday night Bible studies, try to do them every Sunday. We don't get them out every Sunday, but we're now that we can get on a more consistent schedule basis once the babies are on the ground, that's the goal, to have them out every Sunday. And then even take it to like mix it up, not just be a Bible study. Like we've been invited to come speak at churches and at Falls Creek, which is down there, but it's like schedules wise and in life, we haven't been able to like really make that another aspect of what we do. But that's a big goal for us, is sharing that.
Yeah, I mean, you got to stay true to who you are, right? You know, and I think the audience loves that. The fact that, like, you know, you're showing off who you are, your life, you know, in a creative, comedic way, which is why everyone likes to watch it, because it's hilarious. But finishing up then, I know obviously we're still kind of relatively early on in the journey. You know, we have a long way to go. Are you still kind of doing like auditions? Is that something you've just kind of shelved for a little bit? Like, are you getting back into it? I mean, obviously you're about to have a baby too, so like, you know, life's about to get a bit nuts. But like, what I mean, where do you see it? What is in the vision, and what do you want to do?
It's interesting you asked that, because like it's funny. I went to California a couple weeks ago. My wife had a baby shower out there, and then my brother-in-law was like, "Hey, are you still doing that movie thing? Like everything you want to do, like on top of this?" I'm like, "You know, this is like what I was. The purpose of doing this was in the first was like, oh yeah." But it's funny. I've had a few opportunities come up. We actually get hit up all the time by casting directors for reality TV shows, and I instantly say no, because like, that's not what we're doing. Yeah. Or like our whole thing is fictionally based. Like has to be on The Amazing Race. I can say that because we never signed an NDA or anything. But like, they wanted me and Gate Bart to be on The Amazing Race. But like that contractually, him having a baby, me having a baby, like that stuff wasn't going to work. And plus, like we would have lost so much money from our own business by doing that. It does not pay unless you win. And it still doesn't pay that much. So I was like, and we're not trying to be reality stars. That's not our goal with this whole thing. Right. So
the value is the opposite in that contract. Exactly. They get all the value from your social media because you're already sharing it along the way.
And then they get a grasp on you, and you can't do much beyond them for a long time. So for us, like, I had opportunities like a couple weeks ago. They're like, "Hey, fly out. We don't even need to audition you. I've already auditioned for these people before, but they're like, it only pays like X amount of dollars, and you got to cover your travel." I'm like, I ain't doing that. Like, and it's nice. It's like, I'm very grateful. Thank you so much. But it's like, luckily, I'm very fortunate. I can say no to those things now, and I'm very picky about if we can get those opportunities or if we will. But where I'm at, this is it. Like, we really have an opportunity here to really take this thing to somewhere else. And people all the time either they like said, this is like watching the Beverly Hillbillies, like in 2020 now, and like I take that as a compliment.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, because like I grew up loving watching that with my grandpa, so like that's where kind of full circle for me. And then people will be like, "Oh man, this is like Letterkenny," which is a Canadian farm show. So it's like, that's very humbling that people say that about our content and what it seems like to them. But you know, we were so busy with the Oklahoma Beef Council. I mean, we make videos for them, and we're going to do some stuff with them here in the fall. Between those deals and having to make our own content, like, just we're very busy. And then on top of that, it's like I still want to be around to help. Like we work cattle in the fall. We drop, and like that's a big part of our content. It's like I feel like I got to help maintain this stuff. If I want like to be able to utilize this stuff too. So. That's kind of where we're at right now with everything. And in the future, I'm very excited where we got to get ahead of us. This is a great year for us. And we're still, it's August. I still got 4 months left, and I can't wait to see where it takes us next. In social media world, there's like things happen like that, you know? So it's exciting, man. And again, at the end of the day, I'm just very lucky I get to do it with family, friends, and get to do it in this. And again, I'm very blessed to be back in the state of Oklahoma.
I can't imagine what COVID was like in California.
I mean, if there was one word to describe it,
of all the places to be.
One word to describe it, it would be HE hockey sticks. Is like how as a kid I used to say. But still love this. I love that place because it made my wife and her family's great people, and beautiful area, beautiful state. Just, think a little bit different way of life out there than it is here.
That's awesome. And I love like looking at, what we talked about in this last hour, like everything comes full circle, just back to, your upbringing in small town, your love of wanting to be a movie star and going to movies and just, bringing it all back to, I mean, it's awesome. And like we just said, it's still very early on in the story. And I can't wait to do this again in 10 years and see what's happened. And we're at 1 million or 2 million or whatever followers, and YouTube's gone off, and maybe you have your own show. Like, it's awesome. And I know you got
you.
big dreams. Like obviously we talked about, you've been raised to, have big dreams, and maybe you play a baseball player in one show. Who knows, right? Maybe you have that, like, I'm an actor, but I'm in the MLB as an actor.
Yeah,
like,
we'll take that.
But Gatlin, man, thanks so much for coming down. It's
Thank you, Mike.
pleasure.
It's awesome, man. And appreciate what you're doing here at this podcast.
Yeah.
You keep it rolling, dude. It's so fun for me as an Oklahoman to get to hear these stories, but I think it's great for people who are outside the state.
I appreciate that. I can't wait to sit with you in 10 years, right? Because that's a goal.
Well, Granny might be jealous. She might want to come on here next.
We should do that. We should do a group one for sure. I will come to Weatherford. Let's do a group one.
Let's do it.
But for everyone listening, thanks so much. And I will post all the links to the social media in the description. So you go check out Gatebart's page, Granny's page, Gatlin's page, and any other ones you want to check out as well. So for everyone listening, we'll catch you next episode. Cheers. This podcast is presented by the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, telling Oklahoma stories through its people since 1927. Follow them online at oklahomahof.com and definitely on Instagram at oklahomahof.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This Is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.